Hi everybody and welcome back to the ProBuilder How to Make tutorial series recreating the E1M1 level from Doom in Unity 3D. This is actually a bit of an optional video. We're just going to be going through and doing some aesthetic work, setting in the just some basic vertex coloring on all the or most of the faces in the level, so that as we move through it and start to light it and texture it, we can get a bit of a better feel for how we want it to look in the end and exactly how the geometry is working for it. So especially in areas like the extra polys we've added along the sides and such, we can start seeing how it works to add some different colors on there and some variation. So here I'm starting out just coloring some of the larger objects real quick, giving them a bit of a different look, something to make them stand out from the others. Remember, with items like these floors and such, you can use Alt-G and expand the selection outward in a plane, and then you can apply the color to it all at once, nice and quickly. And of course you can always just double click on an object to select all the faces on it, so you can color them all at once if you like. Adding the blue for the carpet area there, and then maybe some accents on these the edge of the mini stairway here. Again, just an optional part of this. You could jump right into the texturing if you like, but I like to do this so I can start to get a bit of a feel for how the level is going to look with varied textures on it, and also just to see where things need to be broken up, perhaps add more geometry so I can add extra variation. Just a good thing to start working with before you move into the texturing and then have to redo everything or something like that. Also, it can just be a lot of fun. I really like the look of the plain grayscale level with various small areas put into color from the with the vertex coloring. And of course, if you're just using Prototype instead of ProBuilder, this will definitely be of use to you, since Prototype doesn't have the texturing feature, but it does have this vertex coloring option. Great way to make different parts of the level really stand out. Good use is definitely things like these window frames and such. Make them pop just a bit more by adding some extra color to it. And I'll set a custom green and drop it in there for the outer courtyard. Here we can begin to see kind of how the extra geometry helps, where I can add the colors just onto the inner parts of these faces, or of these walls. And then I can add a different color onto the edges that we added with the geometry. Just like that. Alt-G to select that plane, or all the faces on that plane, and any other faces we'd like to color at the same time. Again, double clicking on those boxes to select all the faces at once, then we can quickly paint the color right onto it. Same for the pillar, just a quick double click will select all the faces. And working on making these door frames a little more interesting. Same for the doors, perhaps. Changing it up to a bit more exciting red color there. That might actually be better to use if that was, say, a red key code door there or something. Good use of the color here for those extra support beams to block out where they're going to be with textures. Lots of use of that Alt-G to select or to grow the selection outward on a plane. Super handy. And the inside of this is going to have its own texture, so we'll give it a special color. Some more carpet in here, and accent on the stairway. Same for these. Need to reset that carpet color there. And there's actually I believe a different texture on the bottom below that area as well, so we'll add some extra there, filling in the doorway here. Another thing, just kind of to get consistent with while you're doing this can help so you can get a better feel for the level, is pick certain colors for certain areas. In this case, I'm setting the floors and the ceilings to this mid-dark gray, and all of the doorways to that red color. And these, of course, will be a nice green for the slime pits. You can set that color there and drop it on. And we'll set the ceiling to the gray that we've decided for everything, or for the ceilings. And we'll highlight the sides with a slightly different color. Same here. And the edges. Dropping in some extra color there since it's a bit of a special area. Good to highlight it that way. Especially if you are using just Prototype and not ProBuilder, you really can do a heck of a lot for your level just by highlighting special areas with the vertex colors. Sometimes I'll just actually, a couple of the levels that I've built just for fun, I really don't even like to mess with textures at all. It can be a great time just to add entirely vertex colors and leave it that way. Setting up the colors on the door here again. And then the stairway. Things are a bit different here. It's not quite a usual stairway. And we might even want to use that extra geometry on the side in order to add a special trim color. Lots of use for this. As you're doing it, you'll start to think more and more on what textures you'll want to use for these areas before you go to all the trouble of applying textures and moving them around and rotating and scaling and all that tedious work. This is a really quick, simple, fast way to start to see how your level is going to look with some texturing on it. It'll also help, of course, if you want to start doing just basic lighting right afterward. You'll see how the light's going to bounce around a bit better based on the colors or the dark and light areas, since there'll be a much different look in your level if you're using bounced or baked lighting dependent on how bright or dark your textures are. It really changes things up. Of course, a bright white color like the standard Prototype here, the texture, will bounce the light a lot more than a black or gray, or different colors, of course, will then bounce that color around. It makes quite a big difference, so good to check out beforehand when you're setting up your final lighting and texturing. Just using the extra geometry we have here to add in lots of detail. And then we can go up top, up to the mid-level here, and add even a bit more. Running out of colors to use here. And we'll just reselect this and drop on that new color, slightly lighter tannish brown, and one more along the top up here. Looks like that geometry is going to need a bit of a fix to match up. Quick to do. And there you go. One more reason to love ProBuilder. Inside of these window frames, drop in the standard bright red. And maybe, actually with these larger ones, we'll go with a simple dark black. They look a little silly being so large with the bright red. Oops, don't want to move that. Actually, just selecting around, adding in the colors here. Slime pit color. And hopefully as we get further and further into this, and you're starting to see it all come together, it really, you start to see the interest in this. Adding just the vertex colors can really make the level pop out in a neat way. I think we'll actually use a darker color for the trim here. Since the floor is already the mid-gray, we'll add the dark, almost black gray for the trim. There we go. Into the second to final room, set the floor, then the ceiling, and the entryway. The door frame, of course. And we have this extra area here with more areas to accent since it has sort of a double door frame. Just gives us more opportunity to be creative. Looking around for anything else that still needs coloring. And we do actually need to work in here. Oops. Looks like I just moved that chunk sideways. And didn't notice while I was building. Well, that's alright. I'm sure we can, alright, I'll go back and fix that at some point later. Moving too quickly. Back into this room, we actually forgot the cylindrical platform that had the green armor on it in the game. Need to make sure and add that in. Somewhere right about there, and this gives us a great chance to use that nice blue color. Actually, let's select the whole thing first, apply it, and then select just the top. Of course, need to delete the bottom faces, and there we go. Sort of the same on these, we can add a bit more detail into the color here. Selecting all the inner faces, and give it just a nice bright blue. Make it look like there might be something special happening on the inside here. And it feels like we need a bit more detail in the color on these areas as well. All of this is really just a good chance to experiment with what might look good and find out what doesn't look good. Oh, missing a face at the top of this in the geometry. Do a quick bridge on that, fix it up. And I can just go back and fix that later if I need to. Taking a look around to see if there's anything else that needs fixing up. This entryway needs the bright red color on it. And we can add color to the trim along the top here. Found some more issues with my geometry. Can just select the vert and hit Alt X to split it so that it disconnects from the other verts around it. And that way we can pull this down separately by clicking once on the vertex or the vertex to select it. And then I can extrude from the edges, pull them over to fix that little mistake there, mistakes plural, and then weld back all those verts, and we're good to go. Continue on around, selecting the trim so that we can color it up. Same for the lower trim. Make sure we do that on both sides, of course. And we need to add a bit of geometry here in order to make that work properly. So I can just pull straight across, bridge those, bridge this one, and bridge between those other edges, and that's it. So I hope you guys got a good feel for how it can work to color up the level. I think this can, number one, just be fun to do, and then later you can light map it and see how it looks with all the colors in there. It also gives a good idea of, or a bit of an idea at least, of how it's going to look once textured, and how you can break up some of the areas and add a little more interest to various parts. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next tutorial when we will really truly actually texture the level. So thanks, see you there.